Democrats dominated the legislative session with their trifecta, but Capitol reporter Mary Lahammer noticed the youngest Senate Republican who leaned in and had a major impact on a variety of legislation. Here's the backstory on a lawmaker learning to be effective in the minority.
How different is the Senate from the House where you came?
Well, tough to compare because when I was in the House, we were all doing committees on Zoom, and so I very much
you were a COVID freshman over there.
freshman. Yeah. So it's definitely been great to have the people back in the Capitol, to have conversations with my colleagues.
This is where you got to be in person
yes.
this year on the floor
in the front row, and yeah, it was great to be next to Senator Miller, especially given his procedural backgrounds, and just to get a chance to learn from him.
Knowledge is something Senator Jordan Rasmusson soaks up quickly. The Harvard grad from Fergus Falls is smart, and his timing is good.
Senator Bill Engelbretson, who was my senator when I served in the House, decided to retire and asked me to run for the state Senate.
And if I recall correctly, legendary Representative Bud Nornis also asked you to run when he was retiring.
That's right. Yeah, that's how I ended up in the legislature in the first place.
His House predecessor had a stellar reputation for making friends and few foes at the Capitol.
Grew up in Fergus Falls, went to the public high school, and applied and got a chance to go to Harvard. And,
how do you think you got in? Why do you think you got in?
I think just working hard and a lot of extracurricular leadership activities, and then took the chance on applying, and really had a great experience out there, and came back to Minnesota after I graduated.
Now Rasmusson wants to make sure young people like him have the opportunity to return home to rural areas like Otter Tail County, which is actually growing.
You probably had opportunities to go elsewhere. You came back.
Yeah, not a ton of Harvard grads, come back to rural Minnesota, but for me, that's where my family is. That's where my wife's family's from, and so it was great to come back home. The biggest county I represent, Otter Tail County, where I live, is faster growing in the state. It's growing much faster than Hennepin and Ramsey County in terms of population, and a lot of that is people deciding they want to come up and live in Lakes Country and having some more flexibility with their jobs. So COVID for us has actually had longer-term positive impacts from being able to recruit people up to our area.
But you're a rural area that's growing.
Yes.
And not a lot of people know that.
He grew as a lawmaker with the chance to serve on the high-profile conference committee creating Minnesota's marijuana legalization.
I was the only member of the conference committee who voted against the bill. And I said, this is likely to happen, whether you like it or not. And so I wanted to make sure that we were able to get some of the concerns that I had addressed through the conference committee report. I still have a lot of concerns with the final bill and think we'll have some issues that we'll have to fix here next session, but was able to get more funding for drug recognition expert training, put in really strong baseline studies and testing so that we can see the impact that legalization has on our youth and on public health.
As the youngest Senate Republican, he can see cannabis and other issues through a generational lens different than some of his colleagues.
Younger folks are more supportive of recreational cannabis. I support our medical marijuana program.
How important is it to have some of that generational diversity you brought?
I think it's important to have folks from all ages here in the Minnesota Senate because at different life stages you face different issues.
Despite being a Republican in a DFL-controlled legislature, Senator Rasmusson got a remarkable number of bills signed into law, and he's technically a freshman.
Of the 44 bills that I was the chief author of, 21 of them got signed into law in some form
the minority.
This session. Yeah, so about 48% of the bills that I was chief author of became law this session.
Another bill that got signed into law was the last big compromise of session, linking a record bonding bill to nursing home funding.
You were part of a bonding bill, nursing home funding. Tell me what you did.
The Senate Republicans, our caucus's big priority was to make sure that before we left this session that we were going to help Minnesota's nursing homes. And unfortunately, we had seen the Democrats in their human services bill not, basically just put forward a loan program for nursing homes, which across the state are facing closure. And we got $300 million for Minnesota nursing homes. Leadership was able to get that negotiated, and then I was asked to help figure out the details, to come up with actual bill language that passed unanimously here in the Senate and over in the House.
Estimates say the bill saved 40 nursing homes from closing. Some in the industry have called him a hero. He said the work they do is heroic.
I was happy to play a role in getting that done.
But you weren't doing press conferences and chasing the cameras and saying, look what I did. Why not?
I think you're able to get more done when you're giving credit to other folks, and it really was a team effort.
I use the analogy show horses and work horses. Were you a workhorse on that one and not a show horse?
Yes, I think as we go back nationally, we see a lot of show horses in Washington, and for me, it's about the work, it's about the constituents, about getting the policy right, and so try to show up with that work ethic that folks up in my area expect.
While Rasmusson worked with Democrats and got things done, don't cast him as a moderate.
I have one of the most conservative voting records here in the Senate as well, but am able to find opportunities for common ground to get some good things done. My goal isn't to make a point, it's to make a difference.